So I'm back out in the garage about to do some painting. So I was gonna talk about some cylinders and what kind of cylinders you got. So these here are some 760 cylinders. And when Yamaha made these, they stamped them to the quality of the port match. How these ports here match up with the castings inside the cylinders when they press them in. So if you'll look on top of this right here, this exhaust side, you'll see that there will be a number stamped in both sides right here. That tells you how close up these matches come from the cast to the sleeves on these ports. Now these ones don't count because these ones have been modified by HPE. But if they hadn't been modified, this here would have told you that this is a 00, and you know, 0 for this cylinder, 0 for this cylinder. But this ranged anywhere from 0 to 5. 0 being the best, 5 being the worst. And if you had them, you look up inside these ports. That's black up in there. You'll see these transfer ports. If it was a 5, you would see aluminum hanging out from the steel. It'd be hanging out to the edge. But since these have been ported, there is none. They're probably, I'd say they're better than a 0. And there's an extra port added to them. And then these have been ported out. So whenever if you're looking for cylinders or looking at a motor, and especially if you want to do racing, like any kind of racing, they do not allow porting. Buoy chasing, all that kind of stuff, they don't allow porting. They want it to be even across the board. So the best thing you can do is get a 00 cylinders, and you're going to get the best out of it without having to port it. What I'm going to do today is, this is a 760 head, so there's extra placements for the factory pipe that came on these. You have all these holes. Well, there was a section right here where there was another bolt hole, and a section here for another bolt hole. We whacked those off, and when we was grinding it out, found some casting pits, and I went ahead and filled them in with some JB Weld the other day, and it's dry, and I sanded it smooth. But if there's a pit, say I didn't fill it, and say that pit somehow got into the transfer ports, these ones up here would probably just go into the water ports, but if it was to get into these ports right here, you could have air coming in, and it could run away, or it'd run lean, kind of like this motor did. Is why I got to tear it apart. Because if you see right there, there's some aluminum transfer from the pistons where it got too lean, and that was because the previous owner did not retorque. After you get a new built motor, any kind of motor, you just freshly build it, you should run it, break it in, and retorque everything, because it's aluminum. Everything's going to probably loosen off, and you need to retorque it, because after it heats and cools and heats and cools, the first few times it's going to loosen up. So you need to retorque all of your head bolts, all of your case bolts. Sounds like a pain, but you know, it'll save you from doing what I'm having to do. But if you have any like pinholes that lead to the transfer ports or the case, lets air in, and it'll make it run funny. Can't get your tuning just right, and that's probably what it is. But so I'm going to be painting these little bare spots just so I don't get no corrosion on it. What I'm going to be painting today with is some Rust-Oleum Fast Fix. It's just a universal flat black. This is kind of, I say this is probably like a satin black, but this is the closest thing without getting a gloss that I could find in a little bitty paint tube. So I'm out here in the garage, about to do some painting on some parts, but I was going to talk about